Cowboys Nation, let's talk about a move that has a lot of people around the league raising their eyebrows right now. The Dallas Cowboys went out and brought in edge rusher Rashan Gary, and if you've been following the reaction from analysts and fans, you've probably noticed something interesting. Some people think this is a sneaky great move. Others think it's just another solid piece in a much bigger defensive puzzle. So the real question is simple. What exactly are the Cowboys getting in? Rashan Gary, here's the situation. Dallas made a deal with Green Bay to bring Gary to Texas, sending a 2027 fourth-round pick in the process. Now, on paper, that might not sound like the biggest trade headline in the NFL. It's not the kind of blockbuster move that dominates every sports show for a week. But sometimes the smartest roster moves aren't the loudest ones. Sometimes the moves that change a defense are the ones that quietly fix a weakness that's been hurting a team for years, and if you've watched the Cowboys' defense closely, you know exactly what that weakness has been. Run defense, consistency on the edge, depth in the pass rush. Those are the areas Dallas has been trying to stabilize. That's where a player like Rashan Gary starts to make a lot of sense. Now, let's be clear about something right away. Rashan Gary isn't coming to Dallas to be a one-man show. He's not being brought in with the expectation that he's suddenly going to rack up 15 sacks and carry the entire defense by himself. That's not the role. What the Cowboys are looking for is something different. They're looking for a player who can raise the overall level of the defense. A guy who can help stop the run, pressure quarterbacks, and bring consistent effort snap after snap. And that's why this move has a lot of smart football minds paying attention. Because Gary has a reputation for doing the dirty work. The kind of work that doesn't always show up in the highlights, but absolutely shows up on the field every Sunday. Before we dive deeper into his film, his strengths, and exactly how he fits into this defense, I want to hear from you. Right now, give this move a grade. If you had to score the Cowboys' decision to bring in Rashan Gary, are you giving it an A, B, maybe a C, or are you not sold yet? Drop your grade in the comments because Cowboys Nation always has strong opinions and I want to see where you stand. And if you enjoy breaking down Cowboys moves like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel is pushing towards 17,000 subscribers, and every new member of Cowboys Nation helps us get there. If you want more deep dives like this all season long, you're in the right place. Now let me throw one more quick question your way before we keep going. Do you believe Rashan Gary can hit double-digit sacks with the Cowboys? Simple vote, yes or no. I'm curious where you land on that because the answer to that question depends a lot on how the Cowboys plan to use him, because once you start digging into Gary's game, the numbers tell an interesting story. His impact isn't always about sacks. Sometimes it's about something even more important for a defense. And that's exactly what we're about to break down next. When you start looking deeper into Rashan Gary as a player, the first thing you realize is that his impact goes far beyond just the sack column. A lot of fans judge edge rushers by one number. How many times did he bring down the quarterback? That stat matters, no doubt about it. But when coaches and scouts evaluate pass rushers, they often look at something else first: pressures, disruptions, the constant stress placed on an offense. Last season, Gary played in 16 games and recorded 7.5 sacks. For some fans, that number might feel a little underwhelming. But when you dig into the full stat line, the picture becomes a lot more interesting. He finished with 45 total tackles, including 25 solo stops and 20 assists. He also forced a fumble and logged 54 total pressures on opposing quarterbacks. That includes 35 hurries and 12 quarterback hits. Now here's why those numbers matter. Pressure changes games even when it doesn't end with a sack. A quarterback who feels the pocket collapsing starts rushing his throws. He starts moving off his spot earlier than he wants to. Routes that should develop downfield suddenly disappear because the quarterback has to dump the ball quickly. That constant disruption can completely change how an offense operates. And that's one of the reasons the Cowboys were interested in Gary. He's a player who consistently affects the pocket. He brings effort every snap. He keeps working even when the first move doesn't win. You'll see him chasing plays from the backside, collapsing pockets late in the down, or forcing quarterbacks into uncomfortable throws. Another thing that stands out when you study Gary's game is his physical style. As a pass rusher, he has multiple ways to attack an offensive tackle. Sometimes he wins with speed, exploding off the edge and forcing the tackle to open his hips early. Other times he uses power, driving straight through the blocker and walking him backward into the quarterback's lap. And occasionally you'll see him combine both, threatening with speed before converting that momentum into a power rush. One move in particular shows up again and again on film: the long arm technique. Gary uses that inside arm to lock out the offensive tackle and control the engagement. Once he has leverage, he can push the tackle upfield and then cut back inside. It's a move that doesn't always look flashy, but it's extremely effective when executed properly. But there's another part of Gary's pass rushing style that deserves attention, and it's something analysts often point out. A lot of his production comes through effort plays. Cleanup sacks, pursuit pressures, situations where he keeps working until the quarterback has nowhere left to go. Some critics say that means he isn't always winning instantly at the line of scrimmage. But coaches see that effort as a strength because relentless players force mistakes over the course of a game. And think about the situation he's stepping into with Dallas. When an edge rusher plays alongside strong interior defensive linemen, it can change everything. Interior pressure collapses the pocket and forces quarterbacks to move sideways, right, into the path of edge defenders. If the Cowboys' front can generate push up the middle, Gary could find himself in a lot of those chase down situations where his motor really shines. That's why some analysts believe his production could actually increase in this system. He won't have to carry the entire pass rush himself. Instead, he becomes one part of a larger defensive front that can attack offenses from multiple angles. But here's the key thing Cowboys fans should understand: Rashan Gary's biggest value might not actually be rushing the passer. The part of his game that has coaches the most excited might be something the Cowboys have desperate down. We're going to talk about something that might matter even more than sacks: how Rashan Gary could help fix one of the Cowboys' biggest defensive problems. One of the biggest conversations around the Dallas Cowboys defense in recent seasons has been the same question coming up again and again. Why does this defense struggle so much against the run? Cowboys fans have seen it too many times. A defense that can pressure the quarterback and create turnovers suddenly gets pushed around when an offense commits to the ground game, long drives. Physical offensive lines leaning on the front seven. Running backs breaking through the edge and picking up chunk yards. That's exactly where Rashan Gary could make a real difference. Because if you study his film carefully, one of the strongest parts of his game isn't just rushing the passer, it's the way he plays the run. Gary has developed into a very reliable edge defender who understands how to control the outside of the line of scrimmage. In football terms, that's called setting the edge. And it's one of the most important responsibilities for an edge player in modern defenses. When a defender sets the edge properly, he forces the running back to stay inside where the rest of the defense can collapse the play. If that edge gets sealed off, suddenly the running back has open space toward the sideline. And once a back gets outside, that's where explosive runs start happening. Gary's strength is that he rarely gives up that outside lane easily. He plays with power in his hands and keeps his body positioned in a way that forces runners to redirect. Offensive tackles and tight ends have a hard time moving him off his spot because he's strong at the point of attack. But it's not just about holding the line. Another thing that shows up constantly on Gary's tape is his ability to chase down plays from behind. On zone runs especially, offenses sometimes leave the backside edge defender unblocked. The idea is that the play is moving away from him, so he can't catch up. But Gary has the speed and the motor to track those runs down anyway. You'll see him explode down the line and close the gap on running backs who think they've already escaped. That kind of effort adds up over the course of a game. Instead of turning into 10-yard gains, those runs get cut down after 3 or 4 yards. And when a defense can consistently limit runs like that, it forces offenses into tougher situations on 2nd and 3rd down. There's also another concept that analysts often talk about when evaluating defensive players. The floor of a defense, the ceiling is how great a unit can become when everything clicks. But the floor is the level of performance you can rely on even on a bad day. Players like Rashan Gary raise that floor. He might not have the most explosive stat line every single week, but he's the type of player who does the fundamentals right. He holds his gap, he fights through blocks, he finishes tackles. That consistency is something the Cowboys' defense has been trying to build toward. And when you look at the bigger picture, this move may be part of a larger strategy. Instead of relying on one superstar to carry the pass rush, Dallas may be building a deeper and more balanced defensive front. Multiple players who can pressure the quarterback. Multiple players who can hold up against the run. A group that works together rather than depending on one individual performance. That's why some analysts describe this move as raising the defensive floor rather than chasing a headline-grabbing signing. It's about stability. It's about making sure the Cowboys' defense doesn't get pushed around in the trenches. And if Gary plays the way his film suggests he can, Cowboys fans might start noticing something different on Sundays. Fewer long runs breaking outside, more running plays getting stuffed early. More situations where opposing offenses find themselves stuck in long yardage downs. That's where pass rushers really start to hunt. Now I want to hear your opinion on this one. If the Cowboys could only fix one defensive weakness right now, what would you choose? Would you prioritize improving the run defense, or would you focus on generating more consistent pass rush? Let me know in the comments because that debate is always a big one among Cowboys fans. And if you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Cowboys Nation is on the road to 17,000 subscribers, and the support from fans like you keeps this channel growing every day. Because in the final part of this video, we're going to look at something every fan loves, the film. The plays that show exactly what Rashan Gary can do on the field and why the Cowboys believe he can become an important piece of this defense moving forward. When you finally sit down and watch the film on Rashan Gary, you start to understand why the Cowboys felt comfortable making this move, because the tape shows a player who can impact a game in several different ways depending on the situation. He isn't limited to just one style of pass rush or one type of defensive role. He can line up in different edge positions, attack tackles with speed, power through blocks, and still remain disciplined enough to hold his responsibilities in the run game. One of the first things that jumps off the screen is his burst off the line of scrimmage. Gary has a quick first step, and when he times the snap correctly, he can immediately put an offensive tackle on his heels. That kind of speed forces tackles to react quickly, and when a lineman is reacting instead of dictating, the defender already has an advantage. There are plays on film where Gary lines up wide on the outside shoulder of the tackle, what coaches often call a 9 technique. From that alignment, he has a lot of space to build speed before making contact. When he uses that burst effectively, you'll see him bend the edge and turn the corner toward the quarterback before the tackle can recover. Those are the types of rushes that create chaos in the pocket. But speed isn't the only weapon he brings. There are also plays where Gary converts that initial burst into pure power. Once he engages with the tackle, he lowers his pad level, drives his legs, and starts walking the blocker straight backward. When an edge rusher can collapse the pocket like that, it doesn't just create pressure from the outside. It squeezes the entire pocket, leaving the quarterback with nowhere to step up. That combination of speed and power is what gives him versatility. If a tackle oversets to stop the speed rush, Gary can counter inside. If the blocker tries to anchor against power, Gary can shift back outside and use quickness to get around the edge. Over the course of a game, those constant adjustments force offensive linemen to play cautiously. And that's when mistakes happen. There are also moments on tape where Gary shows another valuable trait, awareness. On certain plays, you'll see him recognize the blocking scheme quickly. If the offensive line slides protection away from him, he attacks the gap aggressively. If a tight end tries to chip him before releasing into a route, he fights through the contact and keeps working toward the quarterback. You'll also see examples of him beating blocks and chasing quarterbacks who try to escape the pocket. That motor, that nonstop pursuit, is something defensive coaches absolutely love. Even if the first rush doesn't win immediately, Gary keeps the pressure alive until the play is over. Another part of the film that should excite Cowboys fans is how he performs against heavier formations. When offenses bring out extra tight ends or jumbo packages, they're usually trying to run the ball downhill. Gary shows the ability to fight through multiple blockers, squeeze running lanes, and still get into the backfield to disrupt the play. That's the type of toughness you want from an edge defender. And when you step back and look at the bigger picture, this move also makes sense financially for the Cowboys. Gary's deal is structured in a way that gives the team flexibility. The contract runs for 2 years at around $32 million, with a significant portion guaranteed. But the way the cap numbers are arranged allows Dallas to move forward without major damage if things don't work out. It's the kind of calculated risk teams often take when they believe a player can still reach another level in the right system. So when you combine everything, the trade cost, the contract structure, the film, and the role he's expected to play, the move starts to look pretty smart. Rashan Gary might not be the flashiest addition the Cowboys have ever made, but he could easily become one of the most important pieces of the defense moving forward. And Cowboys Nation, this is where you come in. If you believe in what this team is building, this is the moment to show it. Hit that like button and let the algorithm know Cowboys Nation is in the building. Drop a comment and tell the world what you think about this move. And if you really want to help this channel keep bringing you breakdowns like this all season long, consider hitting that super thanks button. Every bit of support helps keep the content coming for fans who live and breathe Dallas football. This channel is built by Cowboys fans, for Cowboys fans, and right now the mission is simple. We're pushing towards 17,000 subscribers, and every new member of Cowboys Nation helps take this community to the next level. So if you haven't subscribed yet, join the team and turn on notifications so you never miss the next Cowboys breakdown. Now I want your final verdict. After hearing the scouting report, the stats, the film breakdown, and the role he could play in this defense, what's your honest opinion of the move? Do you think Rashan Gary becomes a key defensive piece for Dallas, or do you think the Cowboys still need another major addition on the edge? Let me know in the comments, because the conversation inside Cowboys Nation is always the best part.